Hi, everyone. I put this scene together very quickly tonight just to teach you a little bit about audio volumes and how they work. This environment has two rooms. This is a room that's got carpet inside and upholstered furniture. Things like this are more absorptive of sound. And if we go into this room, you can see it's larger and made out of mostly tile and this glass window. So it should have noticeably different acoustics compared to this room. I also have a sound that comes out of that little stereo system there. It looks like a boombox. And I'll just let you see what we've got. Sorry about that. So obviously that's spatialized. Now if I go into here, even when the door is closed, we don't really hear a change of acoustics. When our character vocalizes, and we still hear that sound attenuated, even though the door is closed. And I would rather have that either less audible or not audible at all while we're in this room. And that's where audio volumes come into play. Now, in order for audio volumes to work, we have to get into the world of sound classes. So let's start with the music cue that I made right here. Instead of overriding the attenuation, I just made an attenuation asset. I want to show you the difference. Inside the music cue, I could have clicked Override Attenuation and then just set up everything in the Details panel the way that I wanted. But just to make it easier for myself, I decided to make this attenuation asset. And you can do that very easily just by right-clicking, going to Audio, and somewhere in here it is, oh yeah, Sound Attenuation, okay? And this has the exact same parameters as an attenuation override. So if I were to do this and set up all of these parameters, all of them already exist in this attenuation asset. The nice thing about making an asset is then you can, of course, just apply it to any environmental sound that you put into your world. So I did that in advance. You don't have to. You could do the attenuation override if you want to. Now here inside the sound cue, I want you to notice that we have a class, and I've chosen the master sound class because by default there is no sound class assigned to this. And in order to make our audio volumes responsive, we have to make this sound a member of some sound class. Now, there are some preset sound classes that come with Unreal Engine. But let's say we assign this to the master sound class and double click that to open it. The master sound class, you can see, send to master reverb. Oh, apply ambient volumes. This is the thing that is not checked, but would need to be checked in order for this to be responsive to an audio volume. Now, I don't want the master sound class, by the way, to be responsive to audio volumes, so I'm going to make a child sound class just by dragging off of here, and I'll just have to give it a name. I'll call it Our Environment. And the main change that I'm going to make to the Our Environment sound class is that Apply Ambient Volumes is going to be set to true, okay? And we can save that and go back here. I'll go back to my music cue, which I think is still docked. And instead of assigning this to the master sound class, I'm going to set it to our environment, the one that we just made. Okay, so we're not overriding the attenuation, but you can see here, if I open this, once again, you can see Apply Ambient Volumes is checked. So that's the important part right there. So what I'll do is I'll go into this room that is supposed to have different acoustics, right? Different acoustics. And oh yeah, I have to also, in addition to this music cue, I did make a sound cue for our character. Let me see where I put it. Probably here in character. There's some animations. Oh, I think I know where I put it. Actually, it doesn't matter. I can find it rather easily. This way, we'll find that. Laugh. Okay, and I'm going to assign that also to that same sound class, our environment. Okay, we'll do that for both of them. And I just got her laughing and putting the 2 thumbs up gesture. Okay, so let's start in here, and we're going to make an audio volume, and we're going to try to scale it to the approximate dimensions of this space. All right. So we'll go to the Place Actors panel and type audio volume. Okay, and we're going to drag this into our world. And oops, excuse me. I want to be able to see it, so I press G so I can see the wireframe. G, by the way, will toggle these wireframes on and off. So let's get busy and start trying to scale this so that it is approximately filling our room the way we would want it to. Let's see, where's my mouse? My mouse is disappearing as soon as it's overlapping the viewport for some reason. Let me do a quick save. Okay. All right, so that's obviously a bug. So I'm going to pause the recording for a second and restrike the engine. That happened very quickly. I'm surprised. All right, so I'll be right back. Okay, so everything seems to be working better now. So let's go ahead and select this tool. And I realize what I have to do is I have to minimize, for some reason on this computer, I beg your pardon, my recording controls. Now, I just scaled the wrong volume. That was the overlap volume that I was using to use for the door. And let's do this again. Oh yeah, my mouse is disappearing once more. So let me toggle that. Yeah, it has something to do with my screen recorder. So now I can see my mouse again. And we'll go like so. I'm going to get this just approximate for now. And we'll bring it back. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have to keep toggling this one screen recorder control because that's what's making my mouse disappear. Gee whiz, that's definitely annoying. So let me look around here. G. Wonder if you can see that happening also. Okay. That ought to be good enough. So now inside of this audio volume, we just lift it up a little bit. I think it's probably too tall. Scale it just like so. Okay. And inside of here, what we're going to do is go down into our ambient zone settings. And first of all, we're going to look at a few things. The best way that you can interpret these is to read the tooltips. Okay, so the exterior volume, let's read that together. The desired volume of sounds outside the volume when the player is inside the volume. So the question is, once I enter this room, do I want to hear that radio that's playing in the other room anymore? And if I do, should it be just as loud or should it be attenuated by some value? So let's set that to 0, first of all, and see how that works, okay? And we will do nothing else but that and play. Okay, now the transition time should be half a second, okay, because that's what it was set to in the settings. That might be a little sudden, especially because the door has a 3-second transition time. So let's refine that a little bit, okay? So we will set the exterior time to, let's say, 2.5 seconds. That's pretty close to 3 seconds. And maybe we won't have that be completely silent, but let's make it maybe two, point two. The other thing, exterior LPF stands for exterior low pass filter. Now, usually when you are in another room and sound is bleeding into that other room, the high frequencies do get attenuated. And right now, the exterior low pass filter cutoff frequency is set to 20,000. That's in hertz. And remember, that's the upper limit of human hearing. So, in addition to attenuating the volume, I might want to also roll off some of the high frequencies. So, let's go ahead and do that. We'll set this to something like maybe 700 hertz. Okay, so it's not going to only get quieter, but it's also going to get duller when we enter that room. I'll go into play. Hopefully you can tell. Still bleeding through the wall a little bit. Let's set that cutoff frequency even lower. Let's set it to 200 hertz. That should be even more dramatic. Okay, so hopefully you can tell that that's a lot more dull. I can still barely hear it in here, although it's nowhere near as bright. Okay, so I could put another audio volume here in the living room if I wanted to and set up different settings if I needed to. Right now, I don't think I need to, but let's continue working on this audio volume that we have already. So what we want to do now is to think about the reverb. Okay, so let's go to, let's see, where is that? Reverb settings right here. Apply reverb is checked, but the reverb effect is set to none. So let's set this to one of the presets. And by the way, you can select a preset or you can even make your own reverb asset. If you were making your own, let's say I would make a folder and I would call it reverb. If I was making my own asset, I could do this. I could right click and I could go to audio, and somewhere in here there's going to be reverb effects, reverb effect. So if I open this up, I'm going to call this second room. Might as well do this. Instead of selecting a preset, we can make our own, okay? And we've got various parameters here that are very much like what you would see in an effects processor or a plugin, a reverb plugin within a DAW, digital audio workstation. It's just that it's not as stylized, okay? So let's go ahead and we'll keep the early reflections and the decay time. I'm going to set it to something much, much longer. And bring that up quite a lot. Okay. And we'll save that. And I don't know what that's going to sound like, of course, until I listen to it. So I could select one of these presets, which we still might do, or if you make your own, you can just drag it in there. Okay. Now, if the sound class that this sound cue belongs to is set to respect ambient volumes and has its reverb send turned up. In fact, I'm going to make the volume of the reverb set to 1. It starts to being attenuated for some reason. So let's go to that vocalization, that character vocalization, and that is in human vocalizations, and I put it here, laugh. Okay. And we do have the our environment cue, and let's just check, excuse me, that it is set to send to master reverb. I did have to enable default 2D reverb send and set that to 1. But then again, it doesn't have to be turned up that loud. You could say, let's say 0.5. Let's see if that's enough, and we'll save it that way. And I don't know if you noticed as well, is that as soon as we enter this room, we suddenly can hear a little bit of reverb on the music coming from the radio in the living room. So listen for it carefully. Maybe that's hard to hear. And this is the reverb preset that we made. Why should it sound reverberant in here? Well, this is all tiled and glass, and there is nothing in here that is porous enough, like the fabric on the furniture and the carpeting that's in the other room, to absorb the sound. So this is a way of separating out spaces. Okay, so this is very useful. So when you're building up your environments, if you have interiors and exteriors, this is something that you should be implementing. Another thing about audio volumes is that you might have several of them in your level, and sometimes they may even have to overlap. And if they do overlap, then you have to be concerned with this priority parameter right here. Right now, this defaulted to a priority of 0, but the higher the priority, if we have more than one ambient zone or audio volume overlapping, the one with the higher priority is the one that is going to take over. Okay, so if let's say I had 2 overlapping audio volumes there in my level, I know my mouse is disappearing, it's annoying me as well. But in any case, if I had one for, let's say, this living room and it overlapped with the other room somewhat, I could set that to a higher priority so that it retains the acoustics of whatever audio volume is in the living room until I pass its wireframe and I'm definitely far enough into this other room. Okay. So, you know what? We could possibly mock that up. Let me, in fact, again, just deal with this problem of my mouse. And we'll do maybe another ambient zone in this room. My gosh, that's definitely finicky. You can't see this. I've got this floating toolbar for my screen recorder, and I have to hide it and then unhide it every time I want my mouse to show up. So let's do another audio volume. And I'm going to put it now in this room. And I'm going to deliberately overlap these by some amount. Yep, and there goes my mouse again. So we hide the recording controls so I can see my mouse again. I'll scale this up. Disappeared again. Put it down there. Okay. Let's see. Does it overlap a little bit? Yes. Okay. I'm going to hit G just so I can make sure I can see this. And right now, I don't think I can see the wireframe because I think I put it outside the wall. So let's just make sure I can see where that is. Oh, I see what's happening there. All right. It's easier to see this from the outside, as it turns out. And you can see that it extends a little bit into that other room. And we're going to set its priority higher. And it can even be fractionally higher. But just to make this simple, I'll set this one to 1. And the other audio volume that we have, if I could see my mouse cursor, this one, and that one, that's set to 1. That one's highlighted, and the original one is set to 0. Okay, and for this living room, if we are going to if we're going to bother to have an audio volume in here, maybe what we should do is we should select a preset for it, a reverb preset. That is something more appropriate. So let's select a reverb effect here, something that's more like living room. And if we can't find one, we'll just make one. Large room, medium room, mountains, parking lot, plate, quarry. I don't know what second room is. Smaller room. Okay. And we'll see how that sounds. It's in that you can hear it a little bit. And by the way, those are editable. So if I go into smaller room, I could just double click that. And I feel like the reverb is lasting too long. So we'll go to the decay time and we'll just reduce that. Okay. And save the reverb effect. Play the game again. Hopefully you can hear that a little bit. Okay, so audio volumes are yet another thing that you can add to your levels to give them a greater sense of realism. For example, if you have an outdoor environment, let's say you enter a cave. The cave should have completely different acoustics than when you're just out in the open plains. Or if you enter a house and the house has different rooms, etc. Creating multiple audio volumes is a common technique to enhance your workflow. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you give it a try. And thank you for staying up this late and watching out for this video. Okay, take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.